Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering the book of Haggai.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going to say Haggai or just the book of Haggai.
The whole thing.
It's 2 chapters.
I know, it's going to be such a hard thing to read.
Right?
Chapters.
We're going to be here for forever reading these 2 chapters.
Yeah. So, given that it's a short book, why don't you introduce it in a lengthy and difficult to follow way?
You know what? I'll do my best. How does that sound?
Okay. Why don't you?
Okay. So how about first I talk about what books we have here?
Yes, I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
We also have the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary by Robert Alter.
We have the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews and the New King James Version of the Bible.
We also have Eerdman's commentary on the Bible with commentary on Haggai by John W. Rogerson.
And we have from the Old Testament survey, the book of Haggai. The section here is written by W. Eugene March.
We also have the Septuagint if we need it.
If we need it, yeah, it is over there.
And the Oxford Companion to the Bible, which has proven to be completely useless.
Yeah, it has.
Pencil. It probably does more than that.
The pencil absolutely does more than than the Oxford the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
Yes.
All right.
So without further ado, why don't you tell us what the Book of Haggai is?
So, in comparison to a whole lot of other books that we've read, this one has pretty exact dates.
Oh.
Yeah, like straight up exact dates.
I see in the first verse there's a date. It sets the scene.
Yeah, so we have there's August 29th, September 21st, October 17th, December 18th.
Obviously not in those exact words.
Well, I mean not in the original one, but that according to our calendar.
Yes.
Yeah. Cuz it gives you the day, the month, and the king. So how long has it been since this king has ruled? So yeah, we can if we know when that king's reign started, then we can tell the exact date.
All right.
Which is nice.
I see that this is this takes place in the reign of Darius, which makes Haggai a contemporary of Ezra and Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there are a couple references, I think, to someone named Haggai, but not really that much. So when it comes to who Haggai himself was, we don't know. This is an incredibly short book. There's not much extra biblical stuff or extra or intertextual stuff even to suggest who this person was, what kind of life he led. There's some ideas that he was doing working on a farm or something because of all the agricultural imagery, but we get that a lot anyways, so it doesn't really tell you that much. So at this point in time, it's pretty much just been accepted that we have no idea who the person Haggai was. All we can really say is that okay, he was a post-exilic prophet. There you go, guys.
Great.
So that's what you get.
I see that there's some similarities with the first 8 chapters of Zechariah.
Yep, and that is, when I was searching for a commentary on Haggai and Zechariah, there was that one that had both Haggai and Zechariah 1 through 8, and then the second part of that one was the rest of Zechariah.
By the way, have you ordered those?
I did order them.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they're not here.
Yeah, they're not here for Haggai, but we do have some commentary on Haggai.
Yeah, but they will be here for Zechariah. Yeah.
So the similarity between the two seems to be based, according to Eerdman's.
Yeah, on the dates. That's what connects them. The fact that they're precisely dated.
Yeah, so I've got a little section here. It says, the book of Haggai shares with Zechariah 1 through 8 the unusual distinction of being provided with exact dates on which prophecies were given. The dates occur at 1:1:15, 2:1:10, 18, 20, and Zechariah 1:1, 7, 7:1. In Haggai, the dates range from the 29th of August 520, according to modern time reckoning, to the 18th of December 520. And in Zechariah, from October 520 to the 7th of December 518. While one should be grateful for such dates, which, on the face of it, make unnecessary the kinds of speculation about the dates of materials that have been made for most of the rest of the prophetic literature, they are not without problems, as we will see. Nonetheless, it is clear from the content of Haggai that he falls within the latter part of the second half of the 6th century BC, and that he played a decisive role in the rebuilding of the temple at that time. So not only is Haggai contemporary with Ezra and Nehemiah, but also with Zechariah.
Yeah. So as to more about Haggai the person, from what we can tell at all. So no family name or other information is provided here or in the only other place where Haggai is mentioned, Ezra 5:1 and 6:14. His name seems etymologically related to the Hebrew stem HAG, I think. Which means make a pilgrimage or observe a pilgrimage feast. Hans Walter Wolff, which we've read plenty of his stuff here on the show, suggests that the name, found often in extra-biblical post-exilic sources, was popular because it was an allusion to the birth on a feast day of the person so named. 3 other persons with names related to this stem are mentioned in the Bible. There's Haggith, I guess, in 2 Samuel and 1 Kings, Haggai in 1 Chronicles, and Haggai in Genesis and Numbers. So these are just related stems, but they're different people entirely. But yeah, aside from this, Haggai is only mentioned in Ezra twice.
All right. Interesting that he would have a name.
Yeah, I guess kind of like Hajj, yeah.
Yeah, so interesting he would have a name related to pilgrimage when, I mean, based on what I see, it's literally a call to rebuild the temple, which would occur as the result of a pilgrimage from their, exiled lands back to the land that they were working with.
Yeah, so like after Cyrus came over and got rid of the Babylonian threat for them, he's like, all right, you guys can head back home, do whatever, and they got some funding for this apparently. Of course, we've talked about the exile and Cyrus a whole ton on the show, so we won't go too much into that. But under Cyrus's administrative plan, Judah was governed as a large satrapy called Babylon and Beyond the River. Beyond the River has Samaria as its administrative center due to Cambyses. That's I think Cyrus's son. Yeah. Due to Cambyses' ambitions in Egypt, Syria, Palestine began to evolve into a separate district. By the time Darius I took over, a governor named Ushtani was in charge of the whole satrapy of Babylon and Beyond the River, while a subordinate named Tetanai, also called Peha, in Ezra 6:6 and 13, administered that part of the satrapy called Beyond the River. It is likely that the pressure to remove Judah from Samaria's direct administrative control began when Zerubbabel was appointed and dispatched to Judah around 523-522 BCE.
Yeah, so let me add on to this a bit. Our information concerning events of that period comes from Ezra 1 through 6, although not everything is clear. Following the decree of Cyrus in 540/539, Ezra 1, 2 through 4, a party of exiles headed by a certain Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah, sets out from Babylon to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. By chapter 3 of Ezra, Sheshbazzar has vanished from the scene, and the initiative is passed to Jeshua, the priest, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel. Haggai and Zechariah are mentioned in connection with the work at Ezra 5:1. An immediate question is raised by the fact that the book of Haggai dates the activity of Joshua and Zerubbabel to 520. that is around 18 years after Sheshbazzar's expedition to Jerusalem. There is no information about why nothing appears to have been done to restore the temple during that time. Ezra 4 suggests that there was opposition from the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin in 4:1.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But the letters cited in Ezra 4 pertaining to this opposition are dated to the reign of Artaxerxes in the following century. And in any case, Haggai 1:2 gives no hint of any such opposition.
Yeah, so we have, so while we do have those dates listed, there are going to be issues with some of those dates, which hopefully we'll get into a little more in depth as the show goes on and as we read through the commentaries.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the story of Haggai is, here's a bunch of oracles, and here's a whole bunch of reasons to restore the temple. We're going to restore the temple, and then, it's that same kind of historical context from Ezra and Nehemiah. Yeah,
the book Haggai itself consists of at least two types of material: prophetic oracles and editorial material into which the oracles have been inserted. This method of composition raises questions about the dating scheme. The date at 115 does not seem to refer to anything. This is more obvious in the Hebrew than in the English, where it's tacked on to 112 through 14. A very old suggestion is that 115 was originally followed by 215 through 19. Whether or not this is accepted, it draws attention to the fact that there is a logical progression to the oracles that is obscured in the book as we have it. Because of the apparent logical progression of the prophetic oracles, the view that John W. Rogerson takes in the commentary is that there's no need to interpret Haggai in terms of the dates provided in the book. According to these dates, Haggai's words fit into a period of only 4 months. The possibility cannot be ruled out that his ministry lasted longer than this, even if the origin and purpose of the dates is not known to us. So it looks like Rogerson doesn't pay that much attention to the dates.
Right. I mean, absolutely. The actual historical context itself is more helpful, because if there's a date that's just off, then it's not really great, right?
We also can't rule out the possibility that there's differences in authorship between the editorial material.
Yeah.
So, we have these oracles that are kind of strewn together with this editorial material. And it could be the case that future editors would be going back to older prophecies and adding dates in for them.
That's true.
And the consequence of that is that even those dates could be wrong because they weren't written by the guy who wrote the oracles.
Yeah. Right. And no, I don't think we have found pre-redactor material for this. Although it really doesn't go too much into the text itself, because the text is so short, first of all, and it's not like it's the most influential prophet around. There's really not much stuff going on. So these things were not really, no one really cared as much about Haggai as they did about other prophets. And they still don't really. How often do you hear Haggai being quoted?
I have not ever.
Right.
Nope. And that's the case with a lot of these minor prophets.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you'll have an Amos or a Hosea reference, and that's fine. But yeah,
I've definitely seen more Amos references than others.
Yeah,
right?
But Haggai, in the same vein as Ezra and Nehemiah, but to a much lesser degree. That's the kind of, not only the historical context that we're working with, but the kind of writing it is too. It is a little bit different, but the context is the same.
It's strange because we do have this kind of other block of prophets. These post-exilic Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and I believe it was mentioned that Zedekiah was also in that group, or Zephaniah, rather.
Yeah, Zephaniah.
And you very rarely hear any quotations about these people. with the exception maybe of Ezra because he plays a much bigger role and was rumored to be the guy who wrote the books, right?
Yeah. And the thing about Ezra is, he was, for a good portion of time, a lot of people thought that he was the one who wrote the Torah.
Yeah. And it might be that Ezra has kind of overshadowed all of these other ones who are contemporary to him, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know what time frame Malachi fits into.
Well, I guess we'll find out once we get there.
It looks
Or
like
beforehand.
Malachi contains some anti-Edom stuff.
Oh, classic.
So
that doesn't tell us that much.
Yeah, right. Maybe a similar time frame as Obadiah.
Yeah, because he, Adam, how great they get along.
Yeah. So anything else that you want to say in introduction here before we hop into it?
No, we can just hop into it.
All right, then. The book of Haggai, chapter 1. In the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the 1st day of the month, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet unto Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say, The time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? Now, therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, Consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes.
Yeah, so like everything you do, it's kind of been futile, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes, but I recall this now as a child. I think my mom talked to me about it at some point. I do remember her guy now, just a little.
Oh, yeah.
Weirdly enough.
Out of all books, your
Out of
mother
all the
talked to you
books.
about a guy?
Yep, I remember
Wow.
that one now because it didn't make a lot of sense to me as a kid. All these were really, really difficult metaphors when I was like, 4, I think. Yeah.
So the idea here is that they've protected themselves. They've put themselves into homes, but they haven't rebuilt the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And the consequence of not rebuilding the temple, I've just finished verse 6, by the way.
Yeah.
The consequence of not building the temple is that they're doing work that won't really come into fruition, at least not to the maximal extent that it could.
I mean, yeah, there's a hole in the bag.
Yeah. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Consider your ways. Go up to the mountain, and bring wood, and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. Ye looked for much, and lo, it came to little. And when ye brought it home, I did blow upon it. Why? Saith the Lord of hosts. Because of mine house that is waste, and ye run every man unto his own house.
Yeah, so the choice of words there, I blew it away.
Yeah, it
It's kinda
sounds
weird.
like there was like some kind of a tornado or a windstorm of some kind.
So according to Alter, the intention behind the choice of this verb is unclear. It is the verb generally used for blowing on a fire, as with a bellows. So yeah, you have saw much, and look, there was little, and brought it home, and I blew it away.
Yeah, it's noteworthy here that there's no hint of opposition to the rebuilding, and incidentally, no reference to Cyrus's decree 18 years earlier ordering the rebuilding. Instead, the prophet, we'll get to that. Therefore, the heaven over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit. And I called for a drought upon the land, and upon the mountains, and upon the corn, and upon the new wine, and upon the oil, and upon that which the ground bringeth forth, and upon men, and upon cattle, and upon all the labor of the hands.
Since the temple has not been rebuilt, here comes all these, in a sense, I guess you can call them plagues, right?
Yeah, plagues, natural disasters.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord of Hosts here being the Lord of Armies. It's interesting that they use the term Lord of Hosts.
Yeah.
Given that they're definitely not going to war with anyone.
Well, that's just the way it is.
In fact, at this point in time, it would be kind of insane to think about going to war with anyone, given that they're just rebuilding their community.
I guess maybe it's like a protection kind of thing?
Might be. Then Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, with all the remnant of the people, obeyed the voice of the Lord their God, and the words of Haggai the prophet, as the Lord their God had sent him, and the people did fear before the Lord. Then spake Haggai, the Lord's messenger, in the Lord's message unto the people, saying, I am with you, saith the Lord. And the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people. And they came and did work in the house of the Lord of hosts, their God, in the 24th day of the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king.
This is really kind of messed up here, textually speaking.
Yeah.
So it begins. I'm gonna read this to you from Alter. So that part ends with, on the 24th day of the 6th month, right? In the 2nd year of Darius. And then it continues in the 7th month on the 21st of the month.
Yeah.
So textually speaking, it's very weird here. So this is one of the reasons that people think this was written with a different part of the text. On the 24th day of the 6th month, this is when they begin work on the temple. The second half of this brief verse actually belongs. Oh, okay. So he actually argues this a little bit differently here. Begins to the beginning of the next chapter, where it has been moved in this translation. And which explains why this chapter ends with a comma. Okay. So he moves that in his translation there. But the very end here, the dating in 115 unusually concludes the section. And while this is defended by Myers and Myers, many commentators believe that it originally went with 215 through 19. So that's definitely one of the reasons, because it's just so weird there.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I'd really love, the commentary that I ordered to be here, so we could talk about this part specifically, because this is probably the biggest textual issue, right? Where this is meant to be. The fact that there's just this lone date.
Yeah, considering there's only 2 chapters.
Yeah.
I find it really strange because this is way different than the presentation that we got in Ezra for the same event. Right? Ezra, not only does Ezra set it up as a different time frame than Haggai, but also Ezra doesn't really mention Haggai doing this. It talks about Jeshua and Zerubbabel building the altar, right? And then
Haggai presents it as Haggai's the one who got this message, and then he's going to go off and try to convince these other guys, because apparently they weren't convinced to rebuild the temple.
Right. But they begin rebuilding the temple, and then people start complaining about it, and then Darius makes a decree, right? And they write letters back and forth. and then they finish building the temple. I wonder if there's going to be any mention of Darius's decree. But moreover, it just seems strange that it is such a different presentation of rebuilding the temple, because they seem like almost contradictory histories.
And like, what would be the purpose of attributing the rebuilding of the temple to, I guess, the oracle that Haggai received? Like, why is that crucial? That's what I'm wondering about.
Right, because
like, the thing is, one of the ideas that I said, like, not that I said, that I was reading through was, like, if this was like a family name or something, this could give like credence to a house.
it could. The presentation here is that they set up the altar and continue building the temple in order to perform like holidays, right? They're doing it so that they can celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles in Ezra.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas here in Haggai, they're doing it because it's the direct command of God, and because they've been punished with natural disasters for not doing it. And that has no mention in Ezra.
Yeah. Well then, I'm not really sure what else we can say there. Some more textual evidence or commentary would be great on that. But I think we can just hop into the next chapter then.
Yeah, but I mean, we're technically at the halfway point. So do you
All right.
hear something?
I do hear something. It's a little earlier than usual, but I hear it.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Whoa.
Okay.
So strange. Where did that come? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, of course you haven't, because you get taken to some different realm every single time.
I know, but not this time.
Not this time. No,
Yeah.
this time you're here for it.
I guess that like the story of Haggai being inconsistent with the story of Ezra.
Yeah.
This instance is inconsistent with other instances. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you show them.
So we're about to get an introduction to the second oracle.
Right.
So if the dates can be relied upon, the second oracle was delivered about 7 weeks after the first, on the 17th of October, 520. So the question of the dates affects how the oracle's read, for if the work had been going on for 7 weeks, or in the assumption that 115 marks the beginning of the work, that's the 21st of September, 520, for around 4 weeks, not very much would have been achieved. If the dates ignored, progress could have been greater. Again, the introduction is clumsy, and that 2:3 is addressed to the first first instance to the people, whereas Haggai is told to speak to Zerubbabel and Joshua and the people. So.
And it, I think it would definitely depend upon, like, if we have the dating, that was just kind of like at the end of the chapter there. If it was supposed to go with a different part of the text, then the series of events would be different as well.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'll hop into chapter 2.
Yep.
In the 7th month, on the 21st day of the month, the word of the Lord came by the hand of Haggai the prophet.
This is in the second year of Darius.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Speak now to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and to all the remnant of the people, and say, Who is left among you who saw this house in its former glory?
So there could be a few in Haggai's audience who had actually seen the first temple, but they would be very old because 67 years had passed since its destruction.
Right. Very old.
The temple get destroyed.
Yeah. Or they would have been either just like living in this astonishingly long life for that time, or they were just like incredibly young and don't even remember the first temple.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was here. I was like 8.
8, yeah. And they start telling stories about how they were playing jacks in the temple.
Back in my day, we had to walk uphill both ways to get to the temple through the snow.
Yeah. What a shame. We don't know what you're talking about, old man. How do you see it now? Is it not as nothing in your eyes?
So the foundation for the temple, according to the book of Ezra.
Apparently it sucks here.
Yeah. According to the book of Ezra, the foundation had been laid during the reign of Cyrus, but the work didn't go forward. So what met the eye was a half-finished foundation and no structure above it.
Yeah. Thank you, Regina Gray, for the $5. That is very much appreciated.
Yes, we do appreciate this.
Samaritans in Israel today sacrifice, but elsewhere. When did this split occur and why? In Israel today, I have no idea why they're doing stuff the way they are. But if you're asking about why they sacrifice elsewhere, that would have to be because after the destruction of not only the first temple, but then of the second temple in 70, you kind of have to learn to sacrifice other places, especially if your community is being split up all across the globe. So it's kind of like, what do we do now? What do we do from here? Because it used to be just for priests, right? Not just at the temple, but it used to be just for priests. But then with the exile, it can't just be for priests anymore because you got how?
Well, we also have the implementation of a rabbinic group eventually, which is kind of the dissolution of the priests. I mean, you don't really have Aaronid priests running around today. Right.
If
at least not in the same sense. Yeah,
I'd be interested. I'd be surprised. Let's hear about it because that's weird.
I know a lot of Jews, at least, trace their lineage, right? They like to trace their lineage.
They also have their own Torah. I didn't know they had their own Torah. I really don't know anything about that particular group.
Yeah, me neither.
We should look into them.
In their own Torah, apparently.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know that. I would assume that they would have different philosophies, right? So if they had like midrashic texts or different Talmudic texts that they were accustomed to, that would make sense. It is weird that they would have their own Torah, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the biggest contributing factor to them, sacrificing on their own or in different places would have to be the diasporas and the destruction of the temples.
I also heard that they were pretty good. The Samaritans.
Oh, yeah. The entire point of that story is working with the assumption that people were racist.
Yeah.
Not necessarily racist, but that they hated Samaritans. So the whole point was like, look, even a Samaritan can be good. Like if we put that,
man. It's literally no. He's one of the good ones.
Yeah. What show was that?
That was All in the Family.
Yeah. Oh my God. I had no idea it was that bad. And then you brought it up and I was like, holy shit, this is horrible. What?
That was jaw-droppingly bad.
Yeah. Okay, but I guess that's what passed for humor in those days.
Yeah.
Boy, have times changed. So either way, yeah, this new temple here is just, it's kind of shit in comparison to the old one.
Yeah, it's just a half-built foundation.
Yeah. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Be strong, O Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest. Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord. Work, for I am with you, declares the Lord of hosts. according to the covenant that I made with you when you came out of Egypt. So, yeah, classic.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
It is classic.
Yes.
My spirit remains in your midst. Fear not, for thus says the Lord of hosts, yet once more, in a little while, I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, so that the treasures of all nations shall come in, and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord of hosts.
So, for shaking the nations, through the authorization of Cyrus, exiles had returned from Babylonia, but their material existence was meager, and their Davidic ruler was merely a functionary of the Persian Empire. Against this background, Haggai envisages a grand triumphal moment when all the nations will be shaken and their riches will flow to Zion. And for the, you said the riches of...
The treasures of all
treasures.
nations.
Well, Alter translates this as the precious things of all the nations. And he says, when the temple was destroyed, its precious vessels were carried off by the conquerors. So this is like, eye for an eye kind of thing, where the precious vessels of other nations would be brought to them.
Right. And if you do remember, when all the stuff was taken away by the Babylonians, there was, we were kind of talking a little bit about where does the Ark of the Covenant fit into all this,
Right.
which we would have guessed would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Because it said that like all the gold stuff was destroyed, right? Was melted down.
Of course. Yeah. And there would be no reason for them to give any kind of credence to their Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. So yeah, they're hoping to get the stuff back, or at least God is saying to them through Haggai that they're going to get a lot of stuff. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. The latter glory of this house shall be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts. And in this place I will give peace, declares the Lord of hosts.
So where it says peace, some construe this as well-being or prosperity. Now, Erdman's comments on this section, verses 3 through 9. On the view that these words were spoken 7 or 4 weeks after the work had begun in the temple site, 2:3 contrasts what is still presumably a ruin with what the temple must have looked like once. If the dating is not followed, the reference could even be to the completed rebuilding. Either way, the point is clear. What is seen now cannot compare with what once existed. Assuming the date of 520 for the oracle, and given that the temple was destroyed in 587, anyone present who was as old as, say, 75 could have remembered the former temple. It has been suggested that these included Haggai himself, but there is no evidence for or against this view. The contrast between then and now is the basis for encouragement for the people. God is with them and is about to intervene on a cosmic scale so that both people and temple enjoy prosperity on a scale greater than ever before. The language hovers on the borderline between events that will happen in the world as it is and what will happen in an eschatological future.
I mean, this really seems like it's talking about the world as it is.
Yeah,
not an
it
eschatological
does.
Future.
That's I don't know where he gets that.
Like
Maybe
I can
like
see
the shaking of the nations,
or the shaking
aspect.
of the heavens and the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
it would probably
especially
come from there.
coming off of the apocalypse of Elijah, this is
Right.
nothing like that.
Nothing in comparison. God, the apocalypse of Elijah was there's oh boy.
Yeah.
Man, so many of these apocalypses have just been crazy recently. The Testament of Solomon, right?
Yeah.
That was crazy too. Man.
Yeah. So we're entering into the third oracle, which ends at verse 14. So let me know when you get there. I'll have other things from Alter to interject before you get there.
Okay, yeah. So on the 24th day of the 9th month in the 2nd year of Darius, the word of the Lord came by Haggai the prophet. Thus says the Lord of hosts, ask the priests about the law.
So from what follows, it becomes clear that the teaching, Alter translates as inquire, pray, teachings of the priests. The teaching Torah that the
Yeah.
priests are involve issues of religious law, what the rabbis would later call halakha. In this case, however, the teaching becomes an analogy for the condition of the people in its relation to God.
Yeah, so I mean, right now they're just asking about Torah questions. He has to ask questions about the Torah.
Yeah.
And this he's being told what to ask here. If someone carries holy meat in the fold of his garment and touches with his fold bread, hold on, this is so weird. And touches with his fold bread or
Touches
stew,
with his skirt.
okay. Bread or stew or wine or oil or any kind of food, does it become holy? The priests answered and said no. It's set up kind of strangely here, right? Because you have God telling Haggai to go ask these priests this question, but it doesn't actually say that Haggai went and asked these priests the question. It just assumes it, and then the priests answered. Either that, or Haggai is narrating these events as if they had happened.
Yeah.
Jumping
I don't know.
around
It's
a bit.
just weird to me.
Well, let's see. Read through verse 14.
Sure. So then Haggai said, if someone who is unclean by contact with a dead body touches any of these, does it become unclean? The priests answered and said, it does become unclean. And you said through verse 14?
Yeah.
Okay. Then Haggai answered and said, so is it with this people and with this nation before me, declares the Lord. And so with every work of their hands, and what they offer there is unclean.
Yeah. So at first it may seem puzzling that Haggai should proclaim the uncleanliness of the people before God when he has just urged them to devote themselves to the rebuilding of the temple and has reported that God had roused the spirit within them. The answer to the ostensible contradiction may be in the phrase, what they sacrifice there, although there is left vague. If the people have been sacrificing, and worship without sacrifice would have been difficult for an ancient Israelite to imagine, this would have to take place on improvised altars, for there was as yet no temple. Such unauthorized sacrifice would be the source of impurity.
Well, sure, but at this point you definitely would have had sacrifices elsewhere. Like there's no way they would have went their entire time in Babylon not sacrificing.
Right, and in Ezra, they talk about building the altar before building anything else, right? So it may be that they had an altar in place, but not the temple itself.
Yeah.
Now, what Eerdman says about this third oracle, in this passage, the reported nature of Haggai's words is particularly apparent, and only the bulk of 2:14 gives any access to what Haggai might have said. Until verse 14, the logic of the passage is clear. Haggai envisages what might be called a type of prophetic symbolism, and that he deliberately seeks rulings from the priests, so as to give point to the special word from God in verse 14. Again, we may be forgiven for wondering at the existence of priests who could have given authoritative answers on matters of ritual cleanness or uncleanness, but it would operate within a ruined temple and with no incentive to get it rebuilt until only a few months previously. The upshot of the consultation is that consecrated meat, commentators suggest that it had been offered on the temporary altar mentioned at Ezra 3:3, as we said, cannot make other food items holy, whereas what is unclean can convey defilement to anything that it touches. This leads to the divine words of 2:14. But what does it mean? Who is this nation whose work and offerings are unclean? There are two main possibilities: the post-exilic community in Jerusalem, and some group of unspecified outsiders, such as the Samaritans. The latter suggestion owes something to Zechariah 7:1-4, which records how people came from Bethel to seek rulings from the Jerusalem priests about fasting. With the rebuilding work underway, it is suggested news spread to the former northern kingdom, and people from there came to join in with the work. Haggai, however, was inspired to say that the presence of these people made the whole enterprise unclean. Unfortunately, this involves reading too much into the text, and the simpler explanation is that the holy work of rebuilding the temple being undertaken by the people can be made unclean. How that can be done is not stated, but it could be that the people were tolerating injustice while doing the rebuilding.
And it also, I mean, yeah, injustice while doing the rebuilding, I guess, I suppose, that would make sense. But at the same time, it seems like maybe this is supposed to be about how immediate or how urgent the need is.
Yeah. So the next oracle is the fourth oracle.
Yeah, and this is where it's this is where a lot of scholars do think that last part of chapter 1 should be.
Mm-hmm. And this goes from verses 15 through 19. So let me know when you get to the end of 19, and I'll provide commentary from Alter along the way.
Okay. Now then, consider from this day onward, before stone was placed upon stone in the temple of the Lord, how did you fare? When one came to a heap of 20 measures, there were but 10. When one came to the wine vat to draw 50 measures, there were but 20.
So this harks back to 1:6. You have sown much and brought in little.
Yeah, like what do you have to show for it?
Yeah.
50 measures in a heap.
No, like half of that.
Well, the Hebrew shows only numbers in this verse, but measure or perhaps a specific unit of measure is implied. So it would be like when they were coming to a heap of 20, it was 10.
Yeah.
Whereas you might also say 20 measures and it was 10.
I struck you and all the products of your toil with blight and with mildew and with hail, yet you did not turn to me, declares the Lord. You know, this reminds me, I feel like I've seen this exact things like mildew and hail. Was that back in Exodus where we saw this kind of stuff? Like that's those specific word choices?
Mildew and hail.
Hit you with blight and mildew and hail?
I recall them being somewhere.
Maybe not.
Is that verse 17?
That is verse 17. Not in Exodus, but
all right. I want you.
It's been somewhere before.
I'm gonna flip backwards here, and we're gonna look at one of the books that we have read before.
All right, which one?
A particular book called Amos.
Oh, Amos. Okay.
And in Amos 4:19, it says, wait. There is no 4:19.
No, there isn't.
4:9.
Okay.
It says, I've smitten you with blasting and mildew.
Yeah, with blight and mildew.
Yeah. When your garden and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increased, the palmer worm devoured them. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord.
Yeah. See, I remembered the thing. I knew it was in there somewhere.
Yeah. So it's the same kind of idea that's been carried over here.
All right. Continuing on here. Consider from this day onward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, since the day that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid.
Yeah, so as the work of rebuilding the temple moves ahead, a new era is launched. Now there will again be people for the Lord, and the sundry blights that had stricken the community will come to an end. For the day that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid, Rashi's explanation in light of the earlier foundation work is apt. Quote, they were now beginning again to add to the first foundations that had been built in the time of Cyrus, end quote. Right. So they're taking up the work.
Is the seed yet in the barn? Indeed, the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree have yielded nothing. But from this day on, I will bless you. So I'm guessing, so it'd be olives. That was like a olive, wine, figs.
It calls back to that Amos verse, right? Because in Amos they talk about all these things, basically.
Right.
Right.
I remember these are huge ways of these are huge agricultural things in Israel.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially olive trees.
Yeah.
Those were just there was like a whole I think it was in Samaria, the very hilly area. That was like a main like export for them.
So this is what Eerdmans says about the fourth oracle. In the text as we have it, this is a continuation of the third oracle. And it is possible to interpret the enigmatic 2:14 in the light of the continuation. Verses 15 through 19 say, in effect, that before the rebuilding began, the community was experiencing agricultural disaster, check with Amos 4:9. Since the foundation was laid, things have changed. If 2:15 through 19 are linked with verse 14, then the latter passage refers to the community before the rebuilding began. This might even constitute a case for dating the third oracle to the period prior to the beginning of the building work. However, the saying is taken, its meaning is clear. A dividing line has been crossed, from which point onward God will bless his people. Now, we are getting into the fifth and final oracle. And
these last 3 verses.
Yeah, and I'll read from Eerdmans once you
4,
finish
looks
those,
like 4 verses.
and read from Altar while you're going through them.
Okay. The word of the Lord came a second time to Haggai on the 24th day of the month. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I am about to shake the heavens and the earth, and to overthrow the throne of the kingdoms. I am about to destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the nations and overthrow the chariots and their riders, and the horses and their riders shall go down, every one by the sword of his brother.
So the passage that begins here is concluding a recapitulation of 2:6 through 9. In this instance, explicit battle imagery is introduced, the overturning of chariots and horses and riders. What is suggested by each by the sword of his fellow is a general panic in the armies of the nations, in which confusion and mutual slaughter take place.
It does seem a little out of place, though. So this is supposed to be coming on the same day as the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this is directly preceded by the part where he's, shaking the heavens and getting other nations to put everything. Israel's not getting everything that they had lost before, right? They're not getting all that gold and stuff, all that silver, their treasures. Like, this would make more sense there. It's really weird that it's here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're putting it anywhere, it should come right after that. But at the very end, after the part where they're like, hey, you guys were doing stuff in vain before, but, things are going to get better with this new temple, right? It's just really weird to have this here.
Yeah, it is.
Either way, he's going to destroy these armies, right? Overthrow the throne of the kingdoms, going to destroy everyone, the riders, the horses, all that stuff. On that day, declares the Lord of hosts, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, declares the Lord, and make you like a signet ring, for I have chosen you, declares the Lord of hosts.
So the signet ring,
that's the thing that you sign things with,
Altar translates this as a seal. The expression is elliptical. The ellipsis is elucidated in the Song of Songs 8:6. Set me as a seal on your heart, as a seal on your arm. For choosing Zerubbabel, it says, while neither king nor anointed appears in the text, might Haggai have feared these could be politically dangerous terms? The strong implication is that Zerubbabel is a descendant of the line of David, now presiding over the rebuilding of the temple, is the chosen heir to David's throne. And this
that would make sense,
expanded a bit in Eerdmans' commentary. So Eerdmans says, the date already met in 2:10 and 19, the 18th of December 520, is repeated, as is the promise that God is about to shake the heavens and the earth. Suggestions have been made about the occasion of the oracle. For example, that Zerubbabel, who alone is addressed, had received an embassy from powerful and neighboring opponents of the rebuilding. Also, it has been suggested that the uncertainties that had surrounded Darius's ascension to the throne in 522, following a revolt against the previous ruler Cambyses by an impostor claiming to be Cambyses' brother, were still being deeply felt, so that the idea could be easily entertained that the world order was about to topple. Suggestions such as these only indicate how little is known about Haggai in this book. The final verse, verse 23, addresses Zerubbabel as God's servant in language that suggests his investiture to royal dignity. Check for reference Zechariah 6, 9 through 14, and the commentary there, which we'll get to. Also, commentary by John W. Rogerson. The book of Haggai leaves much unanswered. We know nothing about him other than he exercised the prophetic ministry for a mere 4 months, if the dates are accepted. Was his subsequent silence due to death or to imprisonment by neighboring or imperial authorities? And what of Zerubbabel, for whom he saw such an important future? What happened to him? We do not know.
He got imprisoned and died.
All that we can say is that at a particular point in his people's history, Haggai became a catalyst and played a decisive part in ridding the people of their inertia and impelling them to rebuild the house of God. So that
Wraps up your commentary.
Yeah, Haggai, not really much to it. I think that those last few verses there do kind of stand out to me as a really weird, like, hey, Zerubbabel, buddy, old pal.
Yeah.
You rock.
So I'm going to rate the book of Haggai at like a 3 out of 10. There's nothing particularly egregious about it, but the only thing that they talk about is rebuilding the temple.
I'm going to give it 3 Z's out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, rebuilding the temple. You sucked before, and now you won't, because...
It's a very short book.
Yeah.
Like, incredibly short.
Not much to it at all, but you know what?
Managed to milk an hour out of it, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to be starting the penultimate book of the Old Testament.
Ah, yes, the penultimate book.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Second to last book is Zechariah. And Zechariah, we're going to take 3 weeks on.
I would think so, yeah.
Well, that's what we decided.
We did,
Yes.
probably, yeah.
So we're going to be taking 3 weeks on Zechariah and then 1 week on Malachi. And then we're done with the Old Testament. So, yeah, we're getting incredibly close to the end here.
How exciting is that?
It does feel like a storybook where all the parts that were story-like were mostly taken out.
Yeah, so like the thing is, like, while scholars would like, even most of them would agree on the dates, they would be like, it's a really weird thing to write all at one time, obviously, because they come at different dates. So it kind of seems like someone's just stamping on new things, putting it up on like a bulletin board or something.
Yeah. So on Friday, we're going to be starting the Testament of Job. And that's a longer book. We may be able to finish the Testament of Job around the same time that we finish the Old Testament.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Because the chapters themselves are pretty short.
But there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of chapters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably finish it.
Yeah, we can at least try.
Yeah.
Now, afterwards.
Yeah. What is the first? Because after this, we would be starting
the New Testament.
Yeah, and of course, Christian apocryphal works.
Yeah, we can hop into all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
We should compile a list.
We could probably do that, yeah.
So we're going to be preparing a list. And I have a website that covers early Christian apocrypha. And I'm going to link that to you. And you can look through it. And, I mean, it's not complete, because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's way more Christian apocrypha than there is Jewish apocrypha.
Yeah.
And we've already kind of gone into those grounds with, like, the apocalypse of Elijah, which is very Christian.
Yeah, you have this this weird mix of when there's when you have a book that, while it is taking up a whole bunch of stuff from Judaism, it is doing it through a Christian lens. We've had that a couple times, yeah. So sometimes it's hard to tell if there's an influence of Christianity, but then other times it's blatantly obvious. So
right. So look forward to the Testament of Job and Zechariah and the Malachi,
yeah.
and then the New Testament.
New Testament, man.
We get to read the same story over and over again.
Yeah,
but different the first time.
after reading the same story 3 times in 3 different ways, we get to read it again in another way, and but that one's a little more different. And then we have a continuation of one of those stories in Acts. And then we have, we got some epistles to read. So it's going to be a bunch of letters from Paul about, to these various churches. And, here's a bunch of stuff you're doing wrong, and here's how you fix it. We're going to get a lot of those. And then we have a few more epistles, but from different people.
Yeah.
And then Revelation.
Yeah, and Revelation's really the exciting one.
It is. That's the best one. It's very exciting. I love apocalypticism.
But man, once we finish up the Old Testament, we're gonna have to take some books off this table. We're gonna have to take Alter's books off the table. We're gonna have to take the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews off the table. We're gonna have to take the Old Testament survey off the table.
Lucky for us, I do have a New Testament survey at home.
Ah, excellent.
Oh, is it going to be... Does it look similar?
I think... Well, yeah. It's
That's
from...
the same thing, I mean.
Yeah.
Cool.
We also have the Jewish annotated New Testament.
We do. So that's going to stay on there.
Yeah. And Lawrence, I don't know how many books you have for the New Testament. I assume that there's a few.
I have entirely too many books on the New Testament. I will bring over more generalized ones for generalized commentary. But as we continue through it,
We'll be getting individual book commentaries too.
Yeah. I already have the and I of course have to thank our wonderful viewers for these. We have received books on Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Oh,
So the first 3 gospels that we're going to read, we have the Hermeneia commentaries on those.
Apparently,
It is important, but we will also be getting the commentary.
oh,
on
we've
John
got
as well.
Hermeneia.
Yeah.
That's good because we haven't had them in a little while, huh?
Yeah. I don't. For some of these books, I think there are a couple books where they don't actually have Hermeneia commentaries on. They just kind of like integrated with some different commentary series and just call it all part of one thing now. I don't know, I guess.
Also, I don't know if Malachi is long enough to justify buying a commentary on it.
Right, that's also what I was thinking. I think having some commentary on it would be good, right?
Yeah, but it's literally 2 pages in that.
Yeah, it is. It's 2 pages. Great, amazing.
And we do have the Old Testament survey in Eerdmans for that. So if you want to support the show, you can buy us more books on our Amazon wish list.
Link is in the description.
You can also check us out on Patreon, where you can get a whole slew of things. If you want to be on this show and discuss things with us and do the show and read the Bible and the Apocrypha, you can do that through our Patreon. In addition to that, you can be entered into monthly t-shirt giveaways.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be entered into a giveaway, you can go ahead and click this pinned merchandise that Chris is pinning right now. And you can buy yourself that shirt. You can buy
We
multiple.
got lots of great shirts on that site, including all the ones with Buzzy B.
Yeah, Buzzy B, our mascot.
Apparently.
Yep. We got to get a Buzzy B costume
oh gosh,
for Chris.
costume. So he can,
like a mascot costume, like you see at the sports ball shows.
Yeah, the sports ball shows with the costume people. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris can come out in the costume and be like, "Hey there, kids.
I'm Buzzy Bee.
Do not wish to do this. I did not volunteer.
What,
If anyone ever
what you
tells
want
you-
doesn't matter."
If anyone ever tells you Job is the oldest book in the Bible, punch them.
All friendly things? Okay.
Yeah. So
This has been Buzzy Bee.
some free things. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can subscribe to the channel. We got
Class, thank you for
Yes.
are those
That's a
euros?
I think.
Or are they pounds?
It
I don't
could be
know.
pounds.
But thank you for the $9.99. That's very much appreciated.
yes. Thank you kindly.
Well, whatever they are, they're worth more than American dollars.
Yes, they are. So, without further ado, we will see you
Oh, right. We will see you on
Friday, and then
we're
Sunday,
gonna
and then
have some
Friday, and then
testaments and stuff.
Sunday, and then
Gonna Job,
Friday,
the whole,
and
we're gonna